Maybe you've heard your writer friends talking about Save the Cat and felt yourself nodding along while secretly wondering, what the heck is Save the Cat? Maybe you read about it on a blog post or saw it mentioned in a YouTube video, or maybe you were just searching for cute cat videos and wound up here. Either way, I'm here to clear up everything and tell you exactly what Save the Cat is, why it's so popular among writers, and why you should be excited about it too. Coming up. Hello everyone, Jessica Brody here, founder of the Writing Mastery Academy online writing school and the author of Save the Cat Writes a Novel, one of many books in the Save the Cat storytelling series. So you're probably here because you want to know what all the fuss is about. What is this Save the Cat thing that all the writers are talking about? Let's start with a very short definition before we dive into the deeper stuff, like why it works, why people use it, where it came from, and how it can help you. The super short, very official sounding definition is this. Save the Cat is a story structure method that breaks stories down into a 15-beat blueprint that writers can easily follow to craft engaging, well-paced stories with a satisfying character arc. Whether those stories be screenplays, novels, novellas, memoirs, stage plays, or short stories. Oh, and I should also mention it's the method that I've used to write over 20 novels that have been published by major publishers like Simon Schuster, Random House, Macmillan, and Disney Press. So yeah, it kinda works. But what does that mean, a story structure method? Well, to answer that question, we need to go back in time. Huh, thought that would trigger like a cool effect or something. Never mind. The story starts way back in 2005 when a successful screenwriter, Blake Snyder, released a book called Save the Cat, which quickly became not only a bestseller, but a go-to guide for screenwriters and filmmakers across the world, and remains today one of the most popular screenwriting guides ever printed. But contrary to what some might believe, Blake didn't invent a storytelling method. He didn't just say, oh, here's a cool new way to write movies. From here on out, we should all write screenplays like this. No, not at all. He didn't actually invent anything. He simply studied movies way back to the beginning of the medium and found that all of the movies that were really successful followed a similar pattern. In other words, they could be broken down into the same plot points. 15 of them, to be exact, told in the same order and appearing roughly at the same place in every movie, just like a blueprint. And he called those plot points beats. He gave those beats fun, fancy names like The Bad Guys Close In and The Dark Night of the Soul, and constructed an easy-to-follow template that screenwriters could follow to write their own movies. Because if every great movie follows this same blueprint, naturally it stands to reason that anyone could follow this blueprint and have a compelling screenplay on their hands. When I picked up the book back in the early days of my novel writing career, when I was struggling and failing to get an agent and sell my first book, I fell instantly in love with it, not just for the easy-to-follow narrative, but also for Blake's fun, relatable voice. But mostly I was dazzled by how simple yet effective the method seemed to be, and I started to wonder, does this work for other forms of story too? Could it possibly work for novels? Like, for instance, my failed novel that nobody wanted anything to do with? I decided to try it out. I got my old rejected novel manuscript, the one that had been turned down all over town by about 35 different agents, and I reworked it, following the 15-beat template that Blake's book outlined. And what do you know? The revised draft landed me an agent and soon after a book deal with St. Martin's Press. Since then, as I said, I've sold over 20 novels to major publishers, and my novels have been translated in over 20 languages. And every single one of those books I wrote using the Save the Cat method. So it worked, at least for me. But then I started to wonder, is it just my particular type of storytelling that it works for? Maybe I just happen to write books that kind of feel like movies. Is it possible this 15-beat pattern that Blake found in movies also exists in other novels? Is it possible it's existed all along? So I set out to do some research. I collected a wide variety of books from all different genres, from all different time periods, and for all different age groups. Like The Girl on the Train by Paula Hawkins, Misery by Stephen King, Everything Everything by Nicola Yoon, Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone by J.K. Rowling, and even The Grapes of Wrath by John Steinbeck. I proceeded to study their structure, how the events of the plot flowed. And here's what I found. At around 10% of the way through all of these stories, something happened to kick the plot into action. A life-changing event of sorts. Like in The Girl on the Train, when Rachel blacks out and wakes up to find blood in her hair and no memory of the previous night. Or in Harry Potter, when Harry finds out he's a wizard. Or in The Grapes of Wrath, when Tom Joad returns home to find his family farm has been completely deserted. And then I found that about 20% of the way through all of these stories, the hero made some kind of decision to try something new or go somewhere new. Like in The Girl on the Train, when Rachel makes the decision to try to solve the mystery of Megan's disappearance. Harry Potter boards the train for Hogwarts, and Tom Joad and his family set off down Route 66 for California in search of work and prosperity. At 50% of the way through, I found that all of these stories contained a major turning point that raised the stakes of the story, like Megan's disappearance being upgraded to a murder case, Harry winning the Quidditch match only to discover a professor was bewitching his broom in an attempt to kill him, and Tom Joad and his family reaching California only to find that there's no work and they were tricked. Then, at 75% of the way through all of these stories, there was a kind of rock bottom moment where the hero hit an all-time low point. Like Rachel locked up in Scott's house with the threat of being killed, Harry and his friends finding out that Voldemort is about to get his hands on the Sorcerer's Stone, and Tom Joad's mentor, Jim Casey, dying in a fight that leaves Tom wanted for murder. And finally, I found that around 80% of the way through these stories, a kind of resolution was discovered, and the hero set out to fix everything that had happened previously, like Rachel boarding the train to confront Megan's killer, Harry and his friends going after the Sorcerer's Stone themselves, and Tom Joad setting off to help organize migrant workers. That's either a really strange coincidence, or it's a kind of code, buried deep within all stories. I call it the secret storytelling code, and it's been there since, well, forever. Blake Snyder found the code in movies, and I found the same one in novels, even those published all the way back in the 18th century, as well as novels published yesterday. That is the Save the Cat method. It's a pattern that exists in successful stories everywhere, made up of 15 common plot points or beats, and these are 5 of them. Blake gave these common beats names, like the catalyst, the break into 2, the midpoint, the all is lost, and the break into 3, among others. And the 15 total beats make up a structure blueprint that is commonly referred to as the Save the Cat beat sheet. So yeah, you could call it a blueprint, you could call it a structure template, but I like to call it a storytelling cheat sheet. Because naturally, if this is what successful stories have in common, then all we have to do to craft a successful story of our own is follow the pattern. And what we ultimately end up with is a story that tracks a compelling character arc, keeps readers or audiences engaged, and leaves them feeling satisfied when all is over. If you'd like to learn more about these 15 beats of the Save the Cat method, check out my YouTube video, How to Outline a Novel in 15 Steps Using Save the Cat, which I'll link to in the description below. Or to dive deeper, check out my book, Save the Cat Writes a Novel, or my Save the Cat online novel writing course, which is available to stream on demand in the Writing Mastery Academy. I'll put links to both of those in the description as well. Okay, so now that we know exactly what the Save the Cat method is and where it originated, let's talk about how to use it. Contrary to popular belief, the Save the Cat method is not just for outlining a novel or story in advance, although it is super helpful for that too, and I use it to outline all of my novels before writing them. It's also a very handy revision tool. Maybe you're the kind of person who likes to just start writing without having a particular plan or outline in mind, which is also called pantsing a novel or writing by the seat of your pants. Well, eventually you're going to have to revise that novel and make sure it's built around an effective structure. That's when you'd compare your first draft with the beats of the Save the Cat beat sheet. Figure out which beats you're missing, which beats need to be amped up, which beats need to be shorter or longer or come earlier or later, and make revisions accordingly. But the Save the Cat method is also great for figuring out what's broken in a story you're currently working on, or busting you out of storytelling blockages, or getting your story back on track if you've wandered too far away from the main plotline. But I especially like using the Save the Cat method for test driving new ideas. Whenever I get a new idea for a novel, or even an inkling of an idea, I always do a beat sheet test drive, where I sit down and quickly sketch out some rough ideas for the beats of that idea. I know if I can brainstorm some brief initial ideas for at least 10 of the beats, then I have a story that can go the distance. On the other hand, if I'm struggling to find enough inspiration for just a few of the beats, I can pretty much tell up front I don't have an idea worth writing. The idea is probably not wide enough in scope, or I'm not inspired enough to get me through an entire story. That beat sheet test drive technique saves a lot of time compared to getting 100 pages into the novel and then discovering there's not enough story. So that's the Save the Cat method, why it's extremely useful, and how it might help you. Am I missing anything? Oh, duh. One of the most frequently asked questions of them all. What the heck does it have to do with saving a cat? Good question. The title originates from Blake Snyder's original screenwriting book, in which he tells screenwriters that if you have an unlikable hero on your hands, you've got to do something early on in the story to get the audience on the hero's side. The hero has to save a cat, like from a tree, or a burning building, or a shelter. Okay, they don't actually have to literally save a cat, but they have to do something that redeems them or warms them to the audience, regardless of how unlikable they might be. Like, think about the scene early on in the animated film Aladdin, where Aladdin steals a loaf of bread from a market stall. Not exactly a likable thing to do, right? Then he gets chased by cops, causes all sorts of commotion in the marketplace, making him even more unlikable. But in the end, what does he do? He gives his half of the bread to a starving mother and her child. Instantly, we're on Aladdin's side. That is a perfect example of a Save the Cat scene. So no, you don't need to save an actual cat. But I'd just like to point out that on the very first page of The Hunger Games, Katniss relays the story of how she tried to drown the stray cat that Prim brought home because it was just another mouth to feed, only to be stopped by Prim's relentless begging. And so yes, Katniss technically saved a cat. This quick backstory serves an important purpose, to show us right off the bat how close Katniss is with her sister. And if you've watched The Night Of on HBO, you might remember some very poignant cat saving done by lawyer John Stone. So there you have it, the full story of what is Save the Cat. I hope you enjoyed this breakdown of one of the most popular storytelling methods around, and I hope you'll dive deeper into the method by checking out more of my YouTube videos about Save the Cat, or my book Save the Cat Writes a Novel, available wherever books are sold, or my online Save the Cat course available in the Writing Mastery Academy. Oh, and be sure to head on over to my website to nab your free Save the Cat starter kit, which comes with 3 full-length examples of the Save the Cat method in action in popular novels. You can download that at jessicabrody.com/starterkit. Until next time, everyone, happy writing.